there, welcome back to Ask Natalie. I'm Natalie, and this week I am going to be answering a letter from a woman who used the moniker confused. I'm actually not going to read her letter verbatim, mostly because she said, this question kind of sucks because I'm not even sure what I'm asking. But what she was interested in was etiquette in the outdoors. She said she was new to the outdoors and she was getting the sense that there were these protocols or rules or expectations that she was supposed to adhere to, but because she wasn't sure what they were about, she wasn't sure where to look for them or even who or what to ask. Pardon me, I am getting over a cold, so if I sound a little froggy, just pretend that my face is actually the face of Tom Waits. Anyway, so I really appreciated this question because I remember when I was first venturing outdoors, you know, I was a city kid growing up. My family didn't do a whole lot of outdoor adventure, and so this was a whole new world to me, and it seemed to me that there were people who were just sort of naturals, who just sort of knew what to do out there, and I didn't even know what questions to ask. So in response to this letter, I outlined a couple of, I guess, points of etiquette that were important to me, but I think each of you would have your own rules that you would share with this writer. First and foremost, leave no trace. And I won't go into the details of leave no trace because it is outlined better and in far more detail and much more eloquently elsewhere. But there will be a link below where you can read more information about leave no trace. But essentially, the heart of leave no trace is, you know, take only memories, leave only footprints. Basically, you want the environment to feel as little an impact as possible from your presence. And so that can influence everything to the way you behave, to the way you handle your trash or waste, to where you decide to camp, what you put into water sources, how you interact with critters, all of that. So we'll put a link below. Leave no trace is probably the best place to start when it comes to outdoor expectations and etiquette. But there's a lot of stuff that isn't explicitly a rule. It's just kind of understood among people who are out there. And I fully hold space for the fact that not everybody will agree with these. But here are my sort of pet peeves when they're broken. I worded that funny. But yeah, the things that when they are not adhered to, I get annoyed. The first is regarding right-of-way on trails. So for me, I try to be very aware of the fact that uphill hikers get the right-of-way. So if you're chugging up a trail and you're going uphill and your legs are tired and you're hauling a big pack, and then all of a sudden, this happy-go-lucky couple of hikers are coming down the hill toward you. Ideally, they will stop and they'll move aside so that you can keep going. Reason being, it's a whole heck of a lot easier to walk downhill than uphill. And it's more comfortable to stop and wait on the side of the trail when you're facing downhill than when you're facing uphill, especially when you've got a heavy pack on. You just sort of, you don't want to fall backward, right? So that is something that I try to pay extra attention to. Uphill hikers get the right of way. And then related to right of way is when you're on a trail that's shared by multiple modes of transportation. So a lot of the trails around here, including the Pacific Crest Trail, are open to horses. And then other less big trails are, they're also open to mountain bikers. So at any given point, you may have horses, hikers, and bikers sharing the same trail. And in fact, that's the order of right-of-way. Horses get the right-of-way over hikers and bikers. Hikers get the right-of-way over bikers, and bikers are last in line. So what that means is if you're coming up, you're a hiker, and you're coming up on a horse, you step aside so that the horse and its rider, I'm assuming it's not just like a horse out for a nature walk. I'm assuming there's a human being on the back of the horse, but you never know. So if you come upon a person riding a horse, they get the right of way. And there's certain ways you should behave so that the horse doesn't get spooked, because they're very intelligent, but also kind of wussy animals. So they're, if you really are interested in that, you can Google it, like, how should I act around a horse on a hiking trail? You don't want to spook the horse, but the bottom line is the horse and its rider get the right of way. And then if you're a hiker and you come along a biker, the biker should stop and allow you the right of way. But here's the thing with that, something I've noticed. It's actually, in practice, as you would imagine, a lot easier for a person on foot to stop and step aside than a person whizzing by at, like, 20 miles an hour on a mountain bike. They sometimes, I've had a few very aware and diligent mountain bikers skid to a stop when they saw me, and it just seemed really inconvenient for them. It would have been much easier for me to just step aside. So what I've noticed is that when I, as a hiker, yield my right of way to the bikers, they usually wave, they say thanks, they understand that you're doing them a favor. And along the same lines, it is their responsibility when they're coming through, they're coming around like a blind bend or down a hill where their visibility is obscured. Most mountain bikers are aware of the fact that they should announce themselves, because they don't know what they're coming up on and they're going fast usually. So again, if you're on a shared trail, it's not uncommon for you to be hiking along and to hear a mountain biker sort of announce his or her presence. That gives you time to move out of the way, and it also, if you don't want to yield your right of way, it also gives you time to yell back so that they know they should slow down to yield right away to you. So right away, I'm like apparently very passionate about right of way. The other thing with outdoor etiquette that I'm pretty into is noise. Noise and conversational interaction. So something I like to tell newbies that I learned through a few dozen interactions with other people is that friendliness is not social hour, right? So a lot of us go to the outdoors because we want solitude, we want serenity, we want to commune with nature. And of course, you want to be friendly with any other people that you encounter at your campsites or your campgrounds or along the trail, but it's important to keep in mind that doesn't necessarily mean that you or the other person is interested in engaging in a big, long conversation. So just be aware of social cues. If you come to a campground and there's a lot of people there and they seem to want to have a big, long conversation and you're up for it, sure. But a lot of people get to the campground, they're tired and they just want to sleep. And there's nothing more awkward than you want to set up your tent and your campsite and somebody is yakking your ear off, and you don't want to be rude, but you also just wish they would please shut up so that you could go to bed. And along the same lines, noise on the trail is a matter of etiquette as well. A while back, I helped a young couple get their navigational bearings about them on a trail. And they were appreciative and they thanked me, and so I moved along, and I ended up being about a quarter to a half a mile in front of them on the trail, but I could hear every single word of their conversation with each other. I knew that the boyfriend's mom didn't like the girlfriends. I knew about an upcoming trip with their siblings, and I just thought, okay, this is a very interesting soap opera, but I didn't come on the trail for a hike to watch or hear a soap opera. Similarly, I've had experiences where I'm hiking alone on a trail. I don't see anybody hiking around me. I haven't interacted with anybody. And then all of a sudden I hear this loud ringtone of a cell phone. Or an alarm on a phone, and it's a person who's, half a mile or a mile behind me or in front of me. I didn't know they were there, but all of a sudden, my pants are scared off my body. So my suggestions are talk in a regular speaking voice if you have a hiking partner. Making noise is good for scaring away critters or making critters aware of your presence, but animals have really good hearing, better than ours most of the time, so you don't have to scream. You can just talk in a regular talking voice, clap, make noise, but nothing excessive is necessary. Similarly, put your cell phone on vibrate or silent. Many of the places that I hike don't have cell phone signal, but periodically I'll enter a spot where there's, a little bit of a signal. The signal is sporadic over the course of the hike. And so I'm never aware of when my phone will get signal and all of a sudden a slew of text messages or alerts will come in. And so I don't want to startle anybody. This is particularly true if I'm hiking in the evening and there's the possibility of hiking past people who are dispersed camping. So just being aware of the fact that you're in nature, and the marimba ringtone is not a natural sound in nature. So silence your phone or at least put it on lower volume. I'm also somebody who on longer hikes likes to listen to podcasts. And if I'm by myself, I find that the podcasts can substitute for talking, especially when it comes to animals. So personally, I don't find those rude if somebody's listening to a podcast or music without headphones, as long as it's at a normal volume, like a speaking voice volume. Other people will say they much prefer you use headphones, but either way, I think the point is be aware of your noise level. Be aware of the impact you're having on the environment in terms of ambient noise. That's also part of the experience. When we're out there, we want to have a pleasant experience, and noise and sound is part of that. So those are my etiquette issues. And I'm curious, what would you share with this young lady who wrote to us, who's a newbie in the outdoors? What are the rules that you follow? What are the pet peeves that you have? Comment below. Let us know. We'll see you next week.